Hello, this is Jerry,
And Jacob,
and we are two unrelated brothers.
Hey everyone, I hope this podcast finds y'all well. Um, Jacob, good to talk to you again. Good to well, not necessarily see you, but hear you.
Good to hear from you too, brother. How you doing?
Doing good. Got off a night shift, so I'm still a little groggy, but I'll make it.
We can never record these when we're like at 100%. Sad.
That's all right. We're adults.
We're never gonna be 100%. The one time we will be, it's gonna be a miracle.
Yeah. So, what's this episode going to be about today?
Well, last episode was about F.E.A.R, so it only makes sense, excuse me, for this to be about F.E.A.R 2. So, you've told me about this game before, specifically the ending, and as I said before with this, I've never played this series aside from the third one, so I went into this one blind as well, aside from the knowledge of the second one. So I was excited to
Mhm.
play it, not like super overjoyed, nothing, but like okay, I want to get to that point that you showed me. And overall, I had a good time with this game. What about you?
Yeah, so my previous time playing this was on PS3, and I still have it on PS3, but I played it this go around on PC.
Same.
It looked okay, yeah, it looked a lot better than I remember on PS3 for sure. Um, I mean, this is like I said, my I think last episode. This one's my favorite.
hmm
I feel like it has that perfect, I guess, cohesion of horror and action. I really liked it.
I mean, you think you still agree with that sentiment now after replaying it?
Yeah, so I actually went back and played because I got the Fear collection, I think during the the
Yeah.
fall sale, and yeah, so I played Fear 1 a little bit on PC, and it did look better. And surprisingly, my computer cannot play it at max. I think that lighting, volumetric lighting, like fucked it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one's still the best one to me.
hmm
It's to me, this one's kind of when their style came into their own.
hmm
Because in Fear 1, it was kind of like basic modeling with some effects that were pretty unique to Fear, but this one I feel like they really grabbed all those unique, I guess, models or NPCs or whatever, and really
hmm
stylized them a lot more. And I really enjoyed the variety of environments in this one. This one was really, I forgot how good the environments were and how creepy the ambiance was.
Yeah, I think the biggest aspect of this, and it's kind of unfair going from the first game on the PS3 to this on the on the PC. Not only that, but 4 years later, on a technical level, yeah, this game was way better. It's like pretty much zero frustrations as far as like controls and things like that. It was just it was slick. It was sleek. As far as that goes, I have like no criticisms. May have come across a bug or two, but nothing like game breaking. Just like a funny glitch.
Yeah, so did you play this with controller or like keyboard, mouse and keyboard?
Oh no, yeah, I put this on the just the mouse and keyboard, and before we jump into it, kind of want to do what we usually do and just go into the little bit of the background of the release and developers and stuff.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so nothing too crazy here. It was developed by the same studio, Monolith Productions, published this time by just straight up Warner Brothers. And I remember you mentioning this last episode. The where they let the fans name the game primarily
Yeah.
because they just the naming rights were just all fucked up at that point. So they did go with Project Origin, and they were happy with it. Fans were happy with it, and but fortunately, um, to just a series of happy accidents, Warner Brothers was able to purchase the naming rights from Activision Blizzard. And so instead of just Project Origin, they were able to name it Fear 2 Project Origin. So nice little thing right there. This was released on February 10th, 2009 for PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. It got mostly positive reviews. I'd say for a AAA title. Pretty average, 79, and this is all from Metacritic. 79 on PC and PS3, 77 on Xbox 360. And as far as critically, the best summary I could find of it was rock solid shooter, enjoyable and well polished, but lacking creativity and inspiration. Whether or not you agree with that, who knows? But that's the general consensus. And around that time, it didn't have a lot to compete with. 2009 was a great year for games, but they all came out during the holidays. The only competition mainly were Killzone 2, Street Fighter 4, The Lost and Damned, and like Burnout.
Really, The Lost and Damned?
Yeah, 2009. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. It's just kind of weird looking at it through that lens because I think I got it. So in 2009, this was what we were in ninth grade, right? So
Yeah.
I think I got it pretty maybe a year or two after it came out. The only
Yeah.
game that I actually think I got at the time it came out was I think Fear 3.
Mhm.
Because as was stated in the last episode, you know, the PS3 version of Fear came out like 3 years after the original.
Yeah.
So it was quite a while. Yeah, that's so weird. Like to think
I
about
know.
the timing of everything, and it was. I mean, it was a good game. I didn't. The only the reason why I was asking if you played with keyboard or controller. I usually play with controller, just so everybody knows, even on PC.
Right.
One thing that I did not like as far as controls go is, I mean, which you could change, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So the aiming down the sights was a toggle on
Oh.
the right trigger instead of holding it like you're used to on most console shooters.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, it was the controls were so much better than Fear 1 for sure.
Yeah. Like I said, unfair because we went from PS3 to PC, but even then, just like I said, just technically speaking, it's just so much better. I had no frame rate problems. Like I said, occasional glitches. Controls were way better. It looks great. Even though it's over 10 years old, obviously it looks its age, but the first Fear, like, okay, this is obviously super old. Fear 2,
Mhm.
like, okay, it's old, but it still looks pretty good, all things considered. This looked like a PS3 game, whereas I feel the first Fear felt like a PS2 and a half game.
Yeah, it definitely did have that look to it, and I will say on PC, it did look a little bit better. At least some of the
Mm,
textures and even some of the character models, the clothing. I mean, everything was a lot better, especially the lighting and even the physics. Because there was like
yeah.
a slider for the physics, which really surprised me because I forgot about that. Like physics were a really big thing back in the day. Like when you look at
Hmm.
not Far Cry, what was that? Crisis. When you look at Crisis,
Yeah.
that's one of the things. Like people made videos of like dropping 1,000 barrels from the sky just to see, what
Hmm.
it'd do.
Right.
That was like a really big deal. So, yeah, that it was a big step up for sure. But like I said, Fear 1 it looked pretty damn good on PC too.
Yeah, no, it definitely looked a lot better than on the PS3, and unfortunately, that's gonna be a point of reference. Unfair or not, because that's just how we played it. I'm sure if we played it on PC, this episode would be a little different. But based on what we've done, yeah, the Fear 2 is just way smoother. It controls easier. It's like I said, as a game, I have no qualms with it. It was just a blast to have to play. I was able to get into like the flow of it pretty easily. I I want to say it took me about 8 hours to beat this.
Yeah, it took me about the same, and I had to break it up during multiple play sessions, of course, like probably 4. And one thing I will say is the intervals. I understand the intervals were missions. Like there's
Hmm.
what, like I don't know, maybe 12, 13 missions.
Yeah,
But the intervals themselves were like really long, which I guess the interval is just it being broken up into a whole new setting.
yeah,
And that's one thing I got to give the game kudos on, especially from the change from the first game. The first game was all like really industrial looking areas
Mhm.
that were basic, not much to them as far as any uniqueness. I mean, it's like you're fighting through warehouses and tunnels and shit like that.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I mean, it was very varied. I mean, you can go through a city that's been, I mean, well, first you start off in what, like a big kind of a
It's
big
like a
business
hotel.
building.
It's like a
Yeah, it
hotel.
almost looks like a hotel, but on the
I think
inside,
it
it's like
is.
it's like
Mhm.
the Armacam, business. And then from there, I mean, you go to a creepy hospital that necessarily isn't what it seems. As
Mhm.
you kind of go deeper into the underground, you're like, what? This is not a hospital. This is some. I mean, there's a hospital in here, but this is not a hospital. Um,
Right.
yeah, and then I mean the going into like the desolation of the city with all these uh ash people that are just, I mean, they're just
Mhm.
sitting there like they're in Pompeii or something. But I mean, well, I'm getting kind of far ahead of myself, but I liked it.
No, yeah, for sure. And so just to kind of give a quick synopsis of this game, it takes place, I guess, right after the first F.E.A.R. So the opening level, the end of the opening level is the the secret base of Armacam blowing up, Point Man doing his thing, and then it picks up right from there. So that was a nice little thing. And then you play as, I believe, Michael Beckett, is kind of a random dude, and his squad's goal is to at first to get, like, what was it, like the CEO of Armacam, and then that kind of goes into like pretty much just stopping Alma, because like the end of the first like we saw at the end of the first game, she got out, and so they have to try to stop her. And it goes off the rails from there naturally.
Yeah, yeah. What's one of the segments that you found the creepiest? I'm pretty sure we might line up at the kind of same area.
Yeah, so kind of like what you were saying with as far as the environments, I really like the first one, but it was just all hallways and like just office things. It wasn't very varied. This one, you had a very good variety of environments, and definitely my favorite part of this game was when you were going to the elementary school. That was by far my favorite segment, hands down.
Yeah. So did you notice when you first get out of that APC, that sign of the school?
Mhm.
Did you read what it said?
I probably did, but I don't remember what did it say.
Okay, so it's not. I guess it's not necessarily what it said, but I actually took pictures. So I took pictures of
Oh,
areas that kind of interested me just for a memory jog. So the sign said, parent teacher conference noon, dismissal Thursday, no school Monday,
right.
and there were four letters that fell down, and those letters are ALMA.
Oh, of
So
course.
so I thought that was cool. But yeah, it,
Mhm.
it was really interesting. I did try to take a better look at some of the environments,
Mhm.
especially because, like I said, this one was kind of unique in that in those environments, and there were actually some funny little jokes. Like there's a part when you're in the city in the rubble, and there's a sign that says Harrier Home Finance, and then in
Yeah.
quotations it says broke question mark. Let's not worry about that right now.
I do remember that.
Yeah, so I mean, that kind of cracked me up. They were able to find some levity, and make little jokes. I even looked at some of the books, which there
Mhm.
was a Lights Out, famous ghost stories, which I thought was kind of interesting in I guess in like a little kid school because they did seem very very young. Now, one thing that I also liked about Fear was the fact that yes, it was very story centric. I would say a lot more than the first Fear,
Yeah, for sure.
but there was still quite a lot that you could actually find through the audio logs or through the actual regular logs where you actually have to read a little bit. You could find a lot out. It
Yeah,
was pretty interesting.
yeah. So this one, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but like instead of audio files, I don't think there was any. It was just basically all like logs, text files this time around. Which, if they're
Yeah,
audio files, I wouldn't have mind because this game had subtitles and the audio was way better.
yeah,
But I appreciate that. I guess in this sense, it makes a little more sense considering you're going through like hospital, you're going through like their offices, so it makes more sense for them to have like these things in writing. And so you're able to find more. I was gonna say I found pretty much I was able to get the gist of the first story a lot better in this game than the actual first game.
yeah. It was definitely a lot more straightforward, and there wasn't as much implication. There's more like they just straight told you like, hey, this is kind of what happened. Um, Another thing too is what I mean. This character kind of came up early in the game. What'd you think of Snake Fist?
That was the name's obviously dumb, but they called that out, so it's fine. He was all right. I had no like strong feeling. I have same as the first game. I have no strong feelings to really any of the characters except the lieutenant, which I can. What's her name? What's her name? The main lieutenant.
I think it started with the K. No, I don't think it was Keller.
Yeah, I mean, because besides her, I mean, even then, I'm not saying like I loved her or nothing, but that was like the most attachment I felt to any of the characters. But the same as the first one, this isn't a character-driven game.
So why was the okay Lieutenant
Keegan? Oh no, not Keegan.
Stokes?
Stokes.
Keegan, yeah, Keegan was the guy who I think was also kind of, why doesn't Alma want me?
Right. No, yeah, he's the other guy that like lost it towards the end.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Lieutenant Stokes. Yeah, she did seem the most grounded, but was there a reason why you necessarily liked her the most? Is it because you kind of spent, even though you weren't spending the game with her, she was kind of in the area and y'all kept on bumping into each other?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's the main point. Yeah, she was the one you interacted with the most, and like you said, very grounded. Like I said, nothing great about her, but in this game, if I had to pick like one character, it'd be her. Also, especially considering 2009, kudos to them for like going with a female lieutenant and just going with it. Not like there was no female jokes or nothing like that. It was just like, yeah, it's a lieutenant woman, and that's it, and that's it. So I kudos to them.
Yeah, it didn't have like gigantic tits like the original Tomb Raider. It was a very natural looking woman, I would say. And yeah, like you said, there was no, oh, she's a woman, she's telling you what to do, she's bitchy. It was just, yeah, this is Lieutenant Stokes.
Yep, yeah, that's it. So I know a lot of people. There's some people who are like, well, then why make them that if it's not important? Well, like I would say the opposite. It shouldn't matter. It didn't matter in this game. So, and like I said, nowadays whatever, but especially back then. So that I think that deserves a quick little shout out.
Yeah, I will say that. Yeah, they definitely did a good job. She was just another character. In fact, I didn't even think it was that. I guess remarkable because she just fit into the game, I would say.
Exactly, and I think that's the best way to like do a character like that. It shouldn't matter. I mean, aside from very certain things, just like here's your commanding officer, and that's it.
Yeah.
No one called her out, nothing. So very good. I was gonna say, yeah. So, is there any like certain things you want to talk about, sequences, or just like the overall? We kind of like jumped into it already with the. I guess do you want to talk about the gameplay or like plot first?
Well, I'm because I have quite a few notes because I was listening to the episode we did for F.E.A.R. and I just wasn't that impressed with my own, I guess, commentary. I just feel like I didn't do as good as I could do, so I definitely wrote a lot of notes just to keep me fresh. And one of the things that I annotated was that Alma was definitely more of a guiding force, even in the beginning, whereas in F.E.A.R. 1, and this is kind of a weird thing because in F.E.A.R. 1 you play her son, so you would think she would be definitely trying to guide you more. But here in F.E.A.R. 2, all the way in the beginning, she seems more as a guiding force, and some of her monsters or whatever are fucking killing everybody else. Meanwhile, you're unscathed, which did happen a couple of times in F.E.A.R. 1, but it was kind of like a dimensional portal kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that probably if I had to like rationalize it in universe, it'd probably be because like she's out now. And that's why she's more prominent in this game.
Yeah, so but she still is out to me too, but in the first one, like for instance in your first encounter, she's walking towards you, everything's on fire and the building explodes. Or you're climbing down a ladder and all of a sudden or you're climbing up a ladder, you're doing something and all of a sudden you see her, like it scares the shit out of you. She doesn't seem, I guess, as guiding, because like for instance in the beginning of the hospital, you're following her. Like she's not coming at you. You just see glimpses of her walking towards a certain area, and you're like, okay, I gotta go that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. And she shows up a lot more in this game. And I know during development, a big thing they wanted to do, the studio, was they wanted her, Alma, to play a bigger role and to like be more tangible to the player. Hence why, especially during the first few levels, she's constantly flashing. There's those few quick time events where you have to like fight her off real quick.
Yeah.
I gotta say, while I appreciate that, while I agree with the sentiment of she should have been more, I guess, prominent in the first game, I think they kind of went a little too far in this one. And there was a certain point where, like, after like the first few like flashing sequences with her, it was more like, she ain't gonna do nothing. Like I got bored of it, and I was just like, nothing's gonna happen. This is all for show. That was me.
Well, considering that she wants to, I guess, molest you, I think that's the reason why.
Spoilers now.
It's full on spoilers. Yeah,
full on
sorry.
spoilers, obviously.
It's full on spoilers. Spoilers. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, because there was definitely a shift in the game during the segment during the elementary school where she grabs you and she's like this creepy, sunken in face, girl. And then she automatically switched to a very sexual, voluptuous, pretty female.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, oh, okay,
yeah. I wrote that down too. Yeah, in the first, and he says one of the things where like I knew the ending, so when I saw that, it wasn't more like, oh, that's weird. It was more like, so this is where it originates. But I did think the same thing. Like it was more like creepy, like she's gonna kill you. To she had a little switch there in mood. And from there, I'm like,
wants to fuck you now.
This is no bueno. So let's just fucking let's get the elephant out of the room. The ending of this game, Beckett's in a hallucination. Shit's going down, and while in the hallucination, he has flashes to the real world, and Alma is, to put it nicely, forcefully having sexual relations with him. She's raping him.
Yeah.
And it's fucking bizarre. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's super good. It's fucking weird. That is a choice.
Yeah, because it's like, why? She wants to have another kid. I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense because she's almost immediately pregnant. Towards the end, it shows her with the big pregnant belly. And I was like, maybe because she lost her sons, but that doesn't make sense. And then in the third game, you play as her kids, where they're grown men. But, I mean, which Paxton Patel's dead. You play as his ghost or you play as a point man. So it's just kind of weird to her reasons. I mean, and it could go back to the fact that she was impregnated, I guess like a test tube kind of way, at 15 years old, and then they took her baby from her. So maybe she's trying to get that back in some way. I'm guessing. I don't know, because 15 definitely be a weird. That's weird. I mean, a 15-year-old child. I don't think. It's just to be pregnant out of nowhere and you're like in a coma or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're awake and they take your baby. Like I don't know. It's the game's fucked up. To say it lightly.
Yeah. I think if it did a better job explaining why, pretty much like just it came out of nowhere, and that's fine. But
I think what came out of nowhere.
Well, like her raping you, like, and obviously there's no way to like I said, it's very subtle when she's like, what? Not very subtle, but they don't telegraph it,
Well,
super forcefully. But I guess like kind of what you're saying, like if they did a better job, I guess showing that she just wants to be able to have a child or something like that. I think it. Part of me is like kind of thinking it was kind of just done for the shock of it. Like you said, it makes sense. Like you said, like she wants a baby, she wants to have a child. I feel like to raise as her own, considering the first two kids she had were taken away from her. Um, but I think it was kind of like part of it was where like how can we like just what can we do to fuck up the player at the end.
so I feel like they did kind of telegraph it with that change from scary ghost Alma to like curvy Alma, curvy
Yeah,
naked Alma.
that is
So I
something.
feel like so I feel like that kind of telegraphed that there's something going on. And then I know they kind of talk about how in the very beginning when the doctor, the CEO of Armacam, is like, get into this chamber. It's a decontamination chamber. Well, no, it's actually a psychic attunement chamber, which kind of puts you on the same frequency as Alma.
Right.
So she can kind of follow you around. So I feel like, excuse me, at that point, she was drawn to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Which
I
I
don't
know
know.
this sounds just fucking crazy, but
No. You're right.
yeah.
You're right. When you go through like the text logs, you find that out. With like Project Harbinger and stuff. I guess for
Yeah.
me, I would have appreciated more if they went more into like the more into the aspect of Alma, where like I said, even though she's more prominent and stuff, and they definitely did show like more of like the fucked up things that they did to her. I think if they just
Yeah.
delved, for me personally, if they delved a little bit further in that whole thing of like not her being feeling like she wasn't like a mother and her babies were like stolen from her, I think it would have made a little more sense. That's again, like you said, it did. I'm not saying like it was just out of nowhere and it was 100% for shock value. It wasn't, but I think it would have been more like, oh, okay, this is not just like this is not totally out of left field. I feel like it was partly was, and again, kind of has to be. You can't just, you know, plant you can't just leave a breadcrumb trail of rape, to put it
Yeah.
lightly. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fucked up. There's no way to do that, I guess, nicely. But for
I
me
feel like
personally,
what
I think,
softened the blow,
mhm.
what softened the blow was that it was a female doing it to a male, for sure,
Yeah,
right?
and
Because it's still
yeah,
rape, but I don't know. I feel like it was definitely. I feel like there's a double standard when it comes to some of this stuff, and so that it wasn't as bad. Like if it was Beckett on Alma or whatever, and what's crazy is essentially Alma was molested in some way too, because she was impregnated, not necessarily in a sexual way. I mean, it was a test tube, but at the end of the day,
yeah.
I mean, that is some sort of sexual trauma or some kind of
Oh
trauma,
yeah, for sure. I think she was because she was like unconscious when that happened. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
it
one
was
hundred
like
percent,
test
one hundred
tubes and
percent, she was
beakers,
raped.
but yeah,
It's
still,
one of those weird things, like not the traditional rape, but it's like that one movie, Don't Breathe,
uh, yeah.
where it's not like what you would think of a rapist, but that man's a rapist, like that,
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree 100%.
um, was it? Yeah, she was like
So
14, I think, when she got
yeah,
impregnated.
14.
Like, point man, that's fucking
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, her and Paxton, yeah, or him and Paxton, yeah, she gave birth to them at 15. So yeah,
Yeah,
impregnated at 14, which is so odd because the craziest thing that blows my mind too is, her name is Alma Wade.
yeah,
So the person doing all these things to her is her own father.
yeah.
So it's like, what the fuck, dude? I don't know. That just I mean, it's sad at the end of the day.
It is very sad, and one of the things I remember this from the first game, but having explained when like he lets her free, I guess it was definitely him trying to redeem himself, going like I can fix this, but because she was like too far gone at that point, she's just a force of pure rage and vengeance.
Yeah,
It was
that's
just
for
like
sure.
it was way too little, way too late. And I guess that's, like I said, there were some interesting ideas in the first in this game too. Um, but it's just never really explored upon that much, and it's fine considering what this game is shooting for. It's mostly about the gameplay, but I feel like a little more effort, and they could have done really well with it. It's kind of like how I feel with and I hate to compare this, but as far as podcasts go, this episode's reference point of reference is like with the second Dead Space. You know, the first one was pretty light on story. There were some ideas in there, and the second one, Dead Space 2, is basically just a story of PTSD. Um, I
Yeah,
feel like
survivor
here,
skill.
yeah, exactly. And here, I think they could have done more with like Alma, with like it's basically the victim becoming the abuser. Um, like, the cycle repeats itself.
Yeah,
Except like the abuser now is like a scary, psychic, powerful being. I think if they delved more into that, I would appreciate that. But that's me because I love when games or any kind of media go like deep like that. But you know that's just more of like my little nitpicks of like the overall story. I still enjoy it very much though.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, that section did, because this isn't my first time playing it, and of course I
Mhm.
know this is your first time, but you knew. I think I showed you what happened because I was
You
just like,
did.
I had to share it with somebody. I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. It's a lot to digest, especially like
Yeah,
as a teenager.
yeah, yeah. But so I know you said the elementary school was your favorite, I guess, environment. What was your
Yeah.
favorite part within the elementary school?
Ooh, it was tough. I mean, I guess going through the hallways when like the lights are flashing and you see like those flashes of like ghosts and shit popping through.
Yeah,
I learned pretty quickly, like just run through them and you're good. But oh, excuse me. But, like just the visual of it and everything like that, it's very tense. I was really on edge, and I feel like that was the closest I got to feeling the atmosphere that the first game had. And that's like my biggest critique of this game is that while it's very sleek, it plays well, the pacing's a lot better. It just I will definitely, I think, besides the ending, I will forget about this game pretty quickly. Whereas the first one I will remember because it always had me on edge. The second one's definitely missing the atmosphere.
see, and I feel like this one has atmosphere. I just feel like, because
Mm-hmm.
like you're talking about like the school, right? That's very
Mm-hmm.
atmospheric to me, and the
For
whole
sure.
there's like I said, a couple pictures I took, and one of them was a guy. I guess he was just massacred with a shotgun into like a trophy case of the school.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like, whoa, fuck, like this is a school, this is a children's school, but here's this guy, just blood and gore everywhere. There's a guy laying on the floor, just bled out. You
Yeah.
know, and then the whole city, man, the whole city with the ashes and the people, and then the ghosts of those people. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of people talking about Hiroshima, and like how there was, shadows burnt into concrete of people who were there, and then in a flash were just decimated.
Yeah.
Um, and you can hear people talking, and to me, like all that was very atmospheric. And they do tone it down because there are some sections, especially when you're in the streets, where you get into this full, power armor, and you just become a god
Yeah.
amongst men. You're just tearing people down. So that does kind of break the atmosphere. But I really enjoyed those sections. But as far as for me, like the school was scary, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is tied between the two scariest parts for me was either when the principal comes busting out of the window.
Oh yeah.
That creeped me out, dude.
That did.
Or when you're walking into the music room and you hear somebody playing the piano and
Mm-hmm.
someone's standing there. The first time I thought it was just Alma
Yeah.
standing there playing the piano, but as you get closer, you see it was the teacher, and those people kind of become like puppets, and they have these kind of like psychic lines out that
Right.
kind of
Right.
I guess reawaken the dead, and then they start fighting. You have to kill them to kind of make sure that nobody pops back up or whatever.
Yeah. So, and on that same topic, one thing this game does a lot better is there's a lot more variety in enemies. The first one
for
was
sure.
more like it was just heavies and soldiers. That was basically it until the end of the game, where it was like demons. Here you have soldiers, the heavies, but also like you said, I think they were called remnants. I want to say those like the guy playing the piano, the principal, and that one guy in the city, and then you had
Yeah.
those failed psychic guys.
Commanders.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
commanders. That was pretty
I
crazy.
hated
I
those.
they sucked, and but also I really appreciate them giving a reason for it instead of just being like, yeah, it's a creepy place, so just throw them in. Like it's a creepy place and they are here, but here's why. So that was a neat little thing, and it makes sense that not everyone is gonna be Paxton. There's gonna be a lot of um
Fuck
failures.
ups.
Yeah, fuck up failures. So I like that. More on the gameplay side of things, I feel like this game was a lot more forgiving than the first one.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot more forgiving, a lot tighter in controls.
Mhm.
And I will say they did take away a key, well, not necessarily a key feature, but I mean, a feature that I use a little bit, and that was the ability to kind of peek around corners.
Yeah, you couldn't lean anymore.
Yeah, and the reason why is I think the developer wanted you to have to put your whole body have your whole body exposed, so you're taking more of a risk when you're going out and fighting. I think is what he said. But to me, that goes very much against the whole tactical kind of thing of, hey, I'm going to flip cover, but I can't
Right.
peek over it. I have to stand at full attention over this table. I just fucking flipped over so I can use this cover. That makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, I think while there is more variety in the environments, as far as like, and again, I can't believe I'm saying this. I sound like an actual reviewer. When I was reading like some of the critiques of this game, and I agree with this 100%. While there's variety, the design of the environments, I feel like was definitely not. That wasn't varied. Like it was still, it felt kind of linear. I didn't feel like I could like, I didn't feel like I had to move. I could stay in one place, kill all these guys, and then move. It felt more
Yeah.
Call of Duty in that sense. Whereas the first game, like if I stayed in one place, I could do that, but it's gonna come at a cost. And here it's more like I'll do this.
Yeah, I felt like the AI was a lot better in the first game.
Mhm.
I felt like you said, if you do stay, they're gonna try to flush you out. If there's three entrances into an area and they see they're all getting chopped up at the first one, they're gonna try to flank you. They're gonna try to flush you out with grenades.
Mhm.
There's all these different kind of ways in the first game, because there was a handful of time maybe one of the people threw grenades at me. Like they weren't trying to flush me out of hallways
Mhm.
or wherever I was kind of hiding.
Yeah, which is crazy because I was looking at it. They still use the same AI design, but I
Really?
yeah, but I think it was because and that's what I'm saying. It's because it was the design of the levels. It kind of like funneled it. It's like it doesn't matter how smart these guys are. If there's only like one way to go, you have to take it.
Well, not only that, like for instance, I know this game is totally unrelated, but in like Red Dead Redemption and GTA,
Mhm.
they use the same physics engine, but they definitely tweak some things in Red Dead Redemption. You get what I'm saying? So it's the same thing, but they did some minor tweaks that may have definitely changed the feel, or in this case, changed the way the AI reacted to you.
Yeah, and while this game was still brutal, it's nowhere near as brutal as the first game. Like the mist and the dust and everything, while there was gore and like body parts flying everywhere, it was what's the word? It was sanitized gore, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, clean
Hmm.
breaks on arms. Well, I will say one part that came off, I guess, as raw or less sanitized was those guys that have, I guess, a oxygen pack or some kind of pack on their back.
Hmm.
That rhymed. And if you shoot them, it would blow off the back part of their head and that part of their spine, which I thought was kind of cool because it was
That is
that
cool. Hmm.
jagged, I guess, like you say, unsanitized gore, because it's not just a clean break like, oh, I shot somebody and they just there's like a click, almost somebody came in with a knife and cut them.
Right, and like the shotgun in this game, while still powerful, like the first game, like once I had a
It
shotgun,
missed
like
you.
that's it. I'm using this all the time. Here it's like like which is good and bad, I guess. Like I still like switch between the weapons in this game, but shotgun was more like, I'm in close combat, I'll switch to the shotgun, not because I think because it's the best, but also like I feel like there's no other choice. It I don't know, it didn't have as much oomph to it, and I kind of missed that from the first game. Like the first game was just like fucking like you're gone, dude. You will cease to exist.
You are a pink mist.
Exactly, and here is more like again like it's still brutal, like limbs are flying everywhere, but I'm like, that's it. I will say there's a good variety in not only grenades, but I think a little more in the weapons as well. I actually did, like I said, I did go through different weapons in this. The sniper rifle, the nail gun. I actually did use the nail gun this time. I did not mess that up, and I very much enjoyed it.
I mean, it was a good time, dude. But in this one, I think it's called the Hammerhead or something like that.
Yes, Hammerhead.
Yeah. So in the other game, I like the other name, the Penetrator. I just think that you're about to get it. Like you get hit with that Penetrator, dude. You get up to heaven. It's like, what killed you, man? I was like, I got penetrated.
You got penetrated. You had the laser cannon. You had that one. I forgot what it was called, but like the one weapon that Snake Fist gives you. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The sniper rifle, which you get a headshot. That I feel was like the most oomph weapon in this game.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say so that weapon that Snake Fist gives you is cool, but the projectile moves so slow.
Yeah,
I feel like that was the issue with that one.
Yeah, and I was and speaking of that too, because that's like the debut or the re-debut, the comeback of the invisible enemies. Very disappointing in them. In the first one, that was like, I'm stressed. This is insane. Here it's like, whatever.
Yeah, so I feel like that goes to a part of them finding their own style. Like, for instance, the Ghost definitely had a cooler look than just being a transparent outline of a person. Like, the Ghost had a cool look. Same thing with these invisible people. Meanwhile, you could see them because there's like this almost rainbow effect, kind of like if
Predator.
Yeah, kind of like Predator. It did give away the position, but that's what I'm talking about. It had its own kind of style to it, right? It wasn't just somebody turned the opacity all the way up. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, for sure. And I think it's just one of those things where like because it looks better, this is just a side effect of it. Where the first one's like very dark, so like you have to like really keep an eye out to see them. Here it's more like just as long as you just have some kind of what's it called peripheral vision, you'll be able to spot them pretty easily. They weren't as like I said, which is the same. Just the overall note of this game, they weren't as brutal as the first one. Whereas the first one, like they will fuck you up quickly. Here, it's like they get you once, it's fine. Just just hit them a couple times and that's it.
So I know you said you had a couple of bugs. Do you recall any of them, or were they kind of all just?
Very, very minor. One thing I did not mention in the first one, and I very much am upset about it, because it's not bad or nothing, but it's very funny. When you pause the game in the first one on PS3, if you press X, when you jump out, when you come back into the game, you just jump.
What? I don't remember that.
Really? No, yeah. If you pause the game, start and all that, and if instead of going like start or circle, whatever, if you press X, which is the jump button, you'll come out of the menu, the pause menu, but you'll also jump. And I thought that was funny, and it is funny. But there was one time where like I paused it like behind a box, like right before an encounter, and when I press X, I jump and I go above the box, and then the enemy sees me, and then shit goes off, and I was like, oh god damn it, that's fucked up. Like that's what I don't know. I don't think that's a bug. That's just I don't know what that is, but there's a fun little thing here. It was more like just very small things, like if you shot someone in a certain spot, like in a doorway or an elevator, the body would kind of like start freaking out,
Yeah. So one of the main glitches that I found, or not glitch, I mean, I guess bugs, was my red dot sight kept on disappearing on the assault rifle.
Oh, you know what? I think that might have happened with me too.
Yeah, so that kind of bothered me. There was actually one area where I I was aiming and I moved and I noticed the red dot sight stayed. It even went outside the reticle, which I was like, oh fuck. So I had to like quickly, let go of the or toggle aiming off and then go back on, and sometimes the red dot reappeared, sometimes it didn't. It didn't
Right.
affect the aiming. Of course, your bullet still went in the center.
Right. Like, was that like the only bug you encountered? Because, like I said, besides like those little like quick glitches, and I only remembered that because you mentioned it. I really can't think of any kind of bugs.
Yeah, that was kind of really the main thing. There was nothing game breaking or anything
No.
really like that.
Let's see here. That's something. I had a question. What was it? So how did you feel about another silent protagonist?
Yeah, so I guess because in this one he was definitely, people were praising him a lot, but he was never saying anything. So he was silent, but he was getting a lot of praise. Whereas in the first one, as Point Man, you didn't like, nobody was like, "Hey man, you're fucking crazy. You're running around. You're doing things that nobody else can do." Whereas this game, even the enemies, if you went slow mo mode, they're like, "He's way too fast.
Oh yeah,
This is impossible."
Mhm.
Like, so it's like, in that first game, you're kind of like, okay, they say my scores are really high, but no one's talking about how badass I am. but in the second game, like I said, even the enemies were like, whoa, like, slow mo, like, whoa. So that was kind of interesting. That was kind of cool. But yeah, I wish there was definitely a lot more. I mean, if a ghost was trying to fuck me, I would definitely be a lot more vocal.
Yeah, so like yeah, the fact that with Point Man you can use the reasoning of he's a clone, he's a machine essentially. That's why he doesn't talk and stuff. I'm fine with that. Here, like, this is a person. This is a man who's like who has a squad. He has history with them, and not only that, but like his squad mentioned this. They talk with him and stuff. So like there's a little bit of what's it called, rapport. What?
Rapport,
There
yeah.
you go. Yeah. There's a history there. And so for like, and one part specifically is when like that one guy is like, "Oh, who's this woman and stuff." You would definitely go like, "Hey, I've been seeing this woman too. This is some weird shit going on." For him to like not say anything is more like, "Come on, man!" Like that's where like I started noting. Before I was okay with it, but when stuff like that happens, more like, okay, this is like, I feel like the occasional line would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely just something like, "Hey, yeah, I'm noticing something crazy too."
Hmm.
Or like, also another thing was when they were talking about, "Hey, as Alma gets closer to you, you're gonna start getting headaches and you're start getting this and
Hmm.
that." Me, I would say fuck. Like, I would let everybody know, "Hey, I think Alma's near. I got this
Hmm.
splitting headache. My shit's fucked."
Right.
Which they really didn't do,
No, not at
or he
all.
didn't do.
Yeah, and I guess it was kind of like I said, it made sense for the first game. Like, this is kind of like you going through it. Here, like, you have a name, you have all this, so it's like, give him a voice. I'm not saying it would have like made the game 1,000 times better. I think it would have helped though. Kind of like what you said. If a ghost, attractive or not, is trying to have its way with me, I'm gonna be fucking screaming probably, or doing something besides just taking it. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, people are going to know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a little disappointing, and like I said, same as the first game. Not really any memorable characters aside from Stokes. Like, I wasn't like devastated when she got killed, but I was like, oh, that sucks. But everything else, like, I feel like if Becca had a voice too, it would have, like, again, it's very dramatic. He got raped. But also, like, if I knew more about him, but like that would have hit even harder.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's just the whole thing with like, for instance, Aristide. Like, that she kind of annoyed me.
Yeah.
Because like this whole time, like, first of all, in the very beginning, you save her. Like,
Mhm.
without you, her ass was grass, right? This fucking colonel was there to kill her. And she's just thinking about, like they say, her resume or
Mhm.
whatever. So that was kind of like, well, fuck you.
Yeah.
Um,
She was very much like that dude from like Aliens. Was like, I just want another notch in my belt for the company.
yeah, yeah. It was just, she was very annoying.
Mhm.
That's really.
Would you say that was like, did it annoy you like in the way you think it was intended, or just like, I don't like this character like at all?
Well, I feel like they weren't really trying to go for that. They were trying to give the impression of this is like a cutthroat CEO, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But it's still kind of, it was like, ugh. I don't know. I just didn't. I wasn't a big fan of her, which I understand. Like, you kind of weren't meant to be a big fan of her, right? Like, she's
Right.
a shitbag CEO.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if that's what they're going for, they definitely hit the mark.
Another thing too, real quick, I didn't like the whole like the visor HUD. It was
Really?
I didn't like it. Like I said, the less on screen the better for me. So the whole like outlines on the edge, I understand why they're there. I'm not questioning that. I just didn't. On a personal note, I did not like that at all. I feel like it just took up screen space.
So that didn't really bother me, but what made me laugh was how janky the whole thing was when he was putting the glasses on in the hospital scene. It was so janky. Like those were like the
Yeah.
shittiest looking glasses I've ever seen in my life.
That was funny. Just to think that, yeah, this guy going through all this shit and like those little glasses on, that was pretty funny to think about.
You got to have your eye protection. In the
No, for
military,
sure.
that's one thing they preached about eye protection. You got to have those sawflies. Yeah, it's a. I don't know. Yeah, that was kind of funny now that I think about it. Just, I mean, because the glasses just looked off. I don't really know how to explain it, but that one,
No.
I mean, anybody who plays in that hospital section when you're waking up and you put I think they call it your visor back on, it's like, what the, okay, that looks weird.
Yeah, and then another thing I want to point out real quick too. It was a quick throwaway line, but God, I hated it. Was that snake fist joke when he's like explaining like what Alma's up to. He's like, you're like free pizza anime convention. You just want to be consumed. I'm like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah, 'cause he said a couple ones. He was laying it on thick, right? He said a couple jokes like that in that segment.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't write that on there, but I did put that Snake Fist kind of lighten the mood and was goof. I mean, he was like the goof.
He was definitely a goof, yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of sad to see him get his head chopped off by one of those invisible guys.
Yeah, it was just so funny. Like that's like the only note I have of him, but it's just because like I don't know why. I really hated that. And, like I heard that, I immediately paused the game, wrote that down. I'm like, I hate this, and
Yeah.
I will let this be known.
Yeah, I actually wrote down one of his quotes when he's talking to Aristide, and they're going over what plan they should go with, and he's like, well, you should go with my plan, and she goes, well, have some faith, and then he goes, I do have faith that you'll be dead by then.
Yeah, that was funny. Have some goddamn faith.
Yeah, that cracked me up. And then another thing I wrote, which I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I think you might be able to see some of the comparisons, was in some of the later sections, the music was very Witcher-like, where there was like a lady in the background kind of doing like an olation, like, in the background.
Okay, no, I do agree, because I remember that. I think even since like the beginning levels, when I heard stuff like that, I'm like, I'm getting Witcher vibes from this.
Okay, so you did. Okay. Glad I'm not the only one.
100%, yeah. I was thinking that, like, which is funny because, excuse me, totally different games, but this game was the score, it was good, and I feel like it was a lot. What's the word I'm looking for here without being stupid? It was kind of
Yeah,
Middle Eastern vibes. Is that the word I want to say? I think that's it.
maybe Mediterranean. I don't know.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's probably better than what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean, though. Like, I'm not complaining about it, but that's like what I noticed. Like, it was. I would say at first it didn't match, but as the game went on, it definitely fitted with it. It only fit with it.
Yeah, I don't know, that kind of was definitely off-putting.
Yeah, definitely doing those specific times, like you were saying, with like it's that singular voice, or like, what the fuck is happening? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so
I do think the sound design and the score overall, they were fine, but it wasn't like a point of praise like the first one was. The first game, the sound and the score was phenomenal, even if like it wasn't there a lot here. It was more like it definitely felt more just like background noise, which I mean, in the end, that's what it is, but it didn't stand out.
that's what I was just about to say. So I remember specifically in the first game, in different segments, you would hear like, like, and you'd just be walking around. It's like, oh fuck, like there is like what is going on? And that might just be part of the music with no,
Right.
whatever. But in this game, there was nothing really like that. There wasn't any creeping like there was nothing really too crazy like that in my opinion. So yeah, Fear 1 definitely hands down. Like you just be walking down this gray corridor. I mean, with nothing really special to it, and all of a sudden you hear. It's like, oh shit, something crazy's happening. Something's going on.
Yeah, I think that plays in a role too. Why I feel this game doesn't have much atmosphere besides like those certain parts with like the hospital and more specifically the school is that when I was walking through places, it's like that's it. Once the enemies are gone, I didn't feel threatened. Whereas the first game, like even after I killed the enemies, I was still on edge because like is something gonna fucking pop out of this corner? I felt like I was seeing things whether they're there or not. I don't know, which I feel is the point. Here it's more like, oh, there's no static, and then there's nothing going on.
So, do you remember any specific parts that you're like, man, this is a cool section or a cool scenery, like a cool event happening during this, like, any parts during the game?
Definitely the school level and seeing like just how fucked up they were and like trying to get these little kids into their programs. That just the implication of that, and like I said, like it was actually scary. I was actually spooked during that section, and even though it did, like you said, take you out of the rhythm of it, the power armor sequences were still very fun. I'm not gonna lie about that. And I'd say those were probably the big ones. What about you?
So yeah, for me, all this stuff kind of gave me the impression that city was an Armacam cover city. Like almost everybody in there was in some way related to the Armacam company or facilities. But yeah, so what I meant was like a small, I guess, concise moment. Like for instance, when you first go into the city and you're really going into that wreckage, you see the airplane go above you, and it's just like boom, and then later on you're playing the game and you find the landing gear that fell off. Like that was like, oh fuck, like this is something, like this is apocalyptic. Another part was towards the end whenever you actually go to the giant crater, and it's like, I mean, it's just fucking massive.
Oh yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, were those kind of your, I guess, parts that kind of were impressive to you?
Yeah, the crater was definitely crazy. What you were saying too, with like the whole like very Pompeii-esque with the bodies just stuck in, just frozen like the ash, and if you run into them, they just. I will say, like running into them, very satisfying. That sound, just.
Yeah.
I felt like it could have been creepier, I guess, with maybe like a different. I don't know. It was definitely creepy, and I was like, God damn, that's crazy. But I feel like it was just more like it was kind of more just there. I definitely felt like some devastation, but it didn't hit like hard for me. But that was still crazy. Like I said, yeah, like I think with what people would say at the time is what I would say about this game. It's fun. It runs well, and it controls well and all that. It's just it's good. But it would get lost at the time. I think still, especially, it would get lost in the shuffle. There's the first one. While it has, even on the PS3 with like all its faults, I'm gonna remember that game. This one is like, aside from the ending, I'll probably just kind of forget about it because it was. It's gonna sound fucked up, but it was like too sleek. It run too well. There was like nothing for me that really stood out from it. Like it wasn't super violent. It wasn't like the color. It didn't have like this weird color palette or nothing. It was just, this is a nice game. It has nice controls and has some nice violence, and that's it. Like it's kind of run of the mill for me, and which is a very weird critique. I understand, but it just doesn't really stand out to me. That's my biggest thing against this game. What about you?
Yeah, so I guess because I was a fan of the series, because since the first one at the time. Like I said, this one's my favorite one. I enjoyed how sleek it was. I enjoyed, especially because I played the first one on PS3. That was the first time I played it, and just going from PS3, like in the jankiness of the controls and the control scheme, to to Fear 2 on PS3. This one's definitely my favorite. I feel like it had the best variety of action and horror. Whereas,
what would you go ahead. Sorry.
like I was gonna say, whereas in Fear 1, it was very clearly defined. Okay, this is an action section. Okay, this is a horror section. Okay, this is an action section. Whereas this one, those two things could blend together.
Okay, no, I didn't think about it like that. That's a good point.
I mean, as far as I assume you're gonna ask me what I'd give it as a score.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would probably give it like maybe an 8.5.
Mhm.
But like I said, this is coming from somebody who's biased. I've been a fan. I've enjoyed the lore. Yeah, an 8.5 I think is a solid one.
Yeah. Okay. Man, I've been going back and forth about this because my biggest thing is even on the PS3,
Uh-huh.
because I gave the first one 7.5, and I would ask myself, is this game better than that to me? And in some ways it is, but in other ways, like I said, it's just kind of it's bland to me. I I I would want to give it an 8, but then I would say, is this game better than the first one? I don't know if I can say that. I think I would have to give it if I had to give this game an 8, then I had to go back and change the score on the first one, give that an 8. But if I want to stick to my guns and say the first one is a 7.5, I'd have to give this one a 7.5 as well, because to me they're on the same level, just in different ways.
Damn. Okay. So you think they're
I
kind
think
of
it
the
depends what
same
you
score
want.
level?
I think it
Okay.
depends what you want, and I think it makes sense considering what I look for in these kind of games and what you do. We look for similar things, but for me, like I think I take more into heart like the atmosphere and stuff like that. Because you were saying you still enjoy the atmosphere and it still felt atmospheric to you, whereas to me it was more like there were sections of it, but not like the whole game. Whereas the first game I felt like I had to take breaks because it was like this is too much. I need it. I'm running out of energy. Here it's more like I can power through this. It's not a problem. Like if you're more into action and just like the overall gameplay itself, I'd say the second one for sure. If you want more of like a tense setting, I would go for the first one. So I think that's the best way I could describe it to me. It depends what you want. So I'd give it the same score as F.E.A.R, the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely could see where you're coming from on this on that aspect. Uh, I don't know. To me, this one is just it's always gonna be my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But I will go back and kind of play the first one on computer,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully we have some chances to actually play the third one together. I don't know if we'll be able to beat it just because our lives are so hectic, but I think
Yeah.
we'll
So like,
be able
okay.
to do it.
So like the plan is we're obviously gonna go into F.E.A.R 3 or F3 ER, depending on how you want to read it. We have beaten that game before. That was such a long time ago, though. I remember like one or two things from it. The only thing I really remember was that you were Point Man, I was Paxton. Spoiler alert. Oh yeah, the way they explained that in this one, in the expansion, you play as a one of the replica soldiers
Yeah,
who's like
Foxtrot something.
who is a clone of Paxton, and Paxton's spirit like takes control of it, which explains how he comes back.
Okay, and that's a Reborn, right?
Yeah, that's Reborn. That explains how he comes back in the third one. Um, yeah, we're obviously going to talk about F.E.A.R 3. We are going to try to play it together since it is a co-op game. You can play it by yourself, obviously, but definitely more fun with another person. We're going to try to do that. Worst case scenario, we'll play it solo, or we'll play like half of it together and like play the rest on our own. But excuse me, that is the plan, and we can now with all that, with these games in my mind, and now that I can like kind of pay attention more to the story of the third one. I am curious to see like how they take it. Like I know the overall point of it and stuff like that, but I kind of just played it just to play a game with you. I had like no interest in the story this time around. Like I will definitely pay more mind to that.
Yeah, so you really think now that you have a lot more context that you're gonna, I guess, maybe be more invested?
I'm definitely more invested. I don't know how invested because, like I said, with Paxton, yeah, he was the baddie in the first one, but I didn't feel like I didn't hate him or nothing with Point Man. sure, I was him in the first game, but because he doesn't say anything, I don't feel like the only connection I have to him is like, hey, this is the guy from the first game, and that's it. Uh, Maybe in the third one though, even because I know he's still mute in that one. I know they do more to flesh them out, but it's like right now, like I said, I'm not super into them. I think it's just more of like, oh, they're back from the first one, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because I know like they have like those weird little things where like they're kind of like in like the rooms together, like with the experiments and stuff like that. I think it's more like Paxton fucking around with Point Man because he feels like he's closer to their mother than him because he's psychic and all that.
Yeah, it definitely. I do remember those sections where they're both in the little room together and kind of it going more into, I guess, the Paxton's, I guess, feelings as a child with basically them being kind of like test tube. Well, they're not necessarily test tube babies; they're born from Alma, but kind of like these very planned, almost clones or basically experiments, really.
It's a extremely light version of Solid and Liquid Snake.
Yeah, I never really
extremely
thought about
light is what it is. I can feel the animosity, but
there we go.
I must say I can't talk right now, but it's like nowhere near. It reminds me of that, but it's just obviously not as deep as that one because that one's more like the first game. I could tell. Here it's like the third game. Like okay, I'm kind of seeing what's happening here.
Yeah, I mean,
so I guess my biggest thing here is like I think the third one will be fun, no doubt, to play with you. I guess my biggest thing is I hope it delves into the relationship a bit, even if there's like not a whole lot to go into, just because like memory issues and all that. But I hope it goes in more into that rivalry and them playing off each other, even if Point Man doesn't say anything, he can still do a lot with body language. That's my biggest hope with that game. I know it's not particularly heavy with the story, but if there's one thing I want out of that game would be that. I don't know if I'll get that or not. I'm sure you remember more of that game than me, but that's what I'm hoping for plot-wise in that game.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping they flesh, I guess, the relationship out between Alma and her children, and maybe go more into, like I said, why she decided to have another baby.
Yeah, that's a fucking big thing.
Yes, it's a very big thing for sure. And it's like, I know that there's two different endings depending on who plays better. And I remember when we played it, you won actually. So I would hopefully like to see the Point Man ending.
Yeah, because I think I won't go into it. I'll save that for the next one. But yeah, they're very different endings. I don't know what's canon. Probably the Point Man one is canon.
Yeah, I would think so. I doubt it, but it'd be cool to see a F.E.A.R 4.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting series, to say the least. I would be very interested because, especially nowadays with like the amount of properties getting rebooted and stuff, I would be very interested in like a remake or a remaster of the first one and the second one too. I don't know. I think we'll see again. I guess it'll be one of those things where like after I play the third one, I'll be like, man, I want more, or like, yep, that's fine. This had its time and it's done. So it'll be very interesting to see that. I would at the very least like something in the realm of this universe for sure, though. That I know.
Yeah, for sure. Man, so I don't know if you kind of want to talk more so about where we plan to go with the podcast. Now that this is episode 10. I didn't even notice. Hey, congratulations, it's episode 10.
Congratulations. Yeah, I this will be episode 10. So, yeah, as far as that, I know we kind of touched on it in the last one since that was more of a stream of consciousness episode. But I do know like every like 10 episodes, I would like for us to do a game that means a little more usual to one of us at least. So this one, I know this is your favorite F.E.A.R game. And fortunately, this just turned out to be the 10th episode. That was not planned, but thankfully that worked out. So yeah, hopefully every like 10 episodes we could do something where it's like we can one of us can like dive into the game, or hopefully both of us can go in there like really speak our mind on it. Who knows what episode 20 will be? That could be The Last of Us. That could be Metal Gear. That could be Psyops. We'll figure it out. But yeah, whether the next episode will be Fear 3 or not, we'll see, because that depends on if we can play together or not. I think it's a short campaign, so if we can play like 2 or 3 times together, a few hours, we can definitely do it. I know one thing we want to talk about next, especially since we played the first Fear, is the evolution of controllers, not only controllers but controller schemes. Because playing the first Fear is like, what the fuck are these buttons?
I mean, even going back to the PlayStation or even the introduction of analog sticks. I know PC has maybe been a lot more consistent as far as when it comes to controls, but I know on the console space there has definitely been some major shifts into not only how games are played but how they're presented, right? Like
yeah.
Originally, it was just like, for instance, in the SNES version of the Terminator, it was just a reticle going across a 2D space, you know, and then with the was a PlayStation, it was just, you couldn't necessarily move on the Y-axis, but you can move in the X, you know, you can move around, but you couldn't move up or down. You know, I mean, and I think even on Nintendo 64, you could move up or down, right?
Yeah.
Until the introduction of the analogs on PS1, then you could kind of have all those, I guess, up, down, left, right kind of movements.
Right. So whether the next episode will be Fear 3, hopefully that's the goal, is for it to be Fear 3.
Yeah.
If not, then we'll have a little, I guess, intermission, and the next episode will be about controls and difference in controllers and all that. That remains to be seen. We'll see. It's gonna be one of those though, yeah. Talking about controllers and how it's changed, or Fear 3. Again, fingers crossed it's Fear 3. I will say though, you mentioned the analog stick with the PS1, but do you know the first home console to have an analog stick?
Was it a Nintendo 64 or was it the...
Yes.
Okay.
It was the N64, which it's one of those things, like I said, I was reading the paper you sent me, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. And then you're looking like, oh, this was the first one to actually do it. You're like, no shit, that makes sense. That's crazy, though.
Yeah, because I remember very keenly playing 007, was it GoldenEye on Nintendo 64 and be able to move up, down, left, or right. It wasn't so smooth, obviously, as it is today, but it was definitely, I do remember that.
Yeah, because you had to use the C buttons to get the camera. The PS1 though, when they added the sticks, that was the first one though to add dual sticks. So yeah, it has that to it. Yeah. So but that's kind of jumping ahead. Yeah. Do you think you got anything else to add to Fear 2? Any final notes?
Well, my final thing is, I guess this is my favorite one.
It still is.
Yeah, it still is. If you're a fan of horror games and shooters, I definitely say give it a try. I mean, play Fear 1. You might not like it as much. It's not as polished, but yeah, give it a try, man. It's definitely got interesting set pieces and a little interesting story. It's old, so it's it's pretty cheap now. I think I got the whole series for like maybe $15, something like that.
Yeah.
If that, maybe $5. I don't remember. Yeah. But no, man, that's really it. Yeah,
no, I had a fun time with this game. Like I said, if my worst thing to say about it is it's kind of like run of the mill to me. I mean, that's still good. It's still a good game. It's just not gonna stand out to me in the long run. But that's it. I had a blast with this. I had a lot of fun with the weapons. Gameplay's tight, and yeah, I'm looking forward to what the third one has in store. Even if I know like it's gonna be very different, considering it's a different studio and it's a co-op game. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, hopefully the next episode will be Fear 3. We can play together, but we shall see.
Definitely. And with that being said, we both appreciate y'all giving us a listen. It's been 10 episodes now. There are hopefully many more to come. Yes. And we can be reached at the number 2 brothers our 2unrelatedbrothers@gmail.com, all lowercase, and like I said, the number 2. And if y'all have any suggestions or things you would like to see within reason, or I mean, even definitely any critiques, right? Because like this is a hobby, and I'm not really good at, doing the editing, but I'm trying to learn little tips and tricks. But yeah, if y'all have any hey, this piece of equipment that's not too expensive can just make everything worlds better, or vice versa. And also keep in mind we're doing this isolated from one another over Skype. Because I know I did hear a couple of issues in the last episode. So we're definitely trying to get better at this for sure. But yeah, y'all take care. I hope everybody's safe. And I love you, man. Congratulations on episode 10.
Congratulations to you too, man. Once, like Jerry said, thank you to anyone listening, especially if you listen to all of them. God bless you. But I love you too, brother. Take care, and y'all be good. See ya.